Recording. All right. So am I facilitating, Chris?
I was confused as to whether you wanted me to do the Zoom part, and you said that. So would you like me to facilitate?
I don't care. I'm happy to if you want me to. As long as you're the chair, I don't care. Happy to do it if you want to delegate it.
Well, that would be good. I'll take minutes if that works.
So calling the meeting to order at 5:37 p.m. on Thursday, November 21st, and you have all the attendance, Chris, I'm sure.
Yep.
Are there any adjustments to today's agenda? Hopefully everybody has the agenda.
I do.
I would like to propose an adjustment if we have time to discuss it, and that is to follow up on the open meeting law rules that I forwarded to everyone from Nicholas, the update on that. And also in the breadth of that, discuss, initiate a discussion on whether our committee should be a committee versus a task force. There are two task force in the city, and they don't have to go through the hoops that we have to with the open meeting law. So if we have time, I would like to get that discussion going.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. And if we don't have time, is it okay to postpone to the next one?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So who wants to read the communications agreement?
I've got it. I can do that.
Sure.
Mission statement: to connect people to the place in ways that allow recreation, exploration, collaboration, and stewardship of the cow pasture. We affirm pursuing stewardship of the cow pasture has many dimensions, including a positive group process. Thus, we adopt the following agreements for all forms of communication: verbal, written, email, etc. We value, number one, we value what each person has to offer. Please come prepared to participate fully. Two, all relevant ideas are welcome. Pursuit of ideas will be based on feasibility and support of the group. Only present ideas that you're willing to carry forward personally. Three, consensus agreement will be sought. Only block consensus when you cannot live with a decision going forward. And the asterisk to that is, well, consensus decision-making is important to this committee. It is recognized some decisions are time sensitive and do not lend themselves to consensus decision-making. Therefore, permission is granted to the local leader to make decisions that clearly align with the group's mission statement and management plan, when possible, consulting with other active members to advise. Is advised. Number four, seek first to understand and then respond with kindness and respect. Five, observe the 3 C's, keep contributions concise, constructive, and connected to the group's purpose. Share the floor and be open to responses, even if you disagree.
Thank you. All right. Approval of minutes. Hope everybody had a chance to read the minutes. And the way this usually works is somebody makes a motion to approve, the other, we hopefully get a second, and then we can open it up for discussion or edits before we move to vote on it. So
moved.
thank you.
Craig?
I'll second.
Thank
Okay.
you. Discussion? Changes?
Nope, I didn't see anything.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from October 3rd?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, so approved. Unanimous. Chris, for the notes.
Thanks, Chris, for the always detailed minutes.
Yes,
Oh.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next item is City Council Request Appearance Committee Charge. Is that you, Chris? Did you put that on there?
Yeah, it's a follow-up. I think I just broached the subject at our last meeting on that they are requesting all committees to have a charge and go before the city council with that charge. It was discussed at our last meeting that, you know, we already had a mission statement and a vision. And the thought was, is that possibly that's, you know, that would be sufficient. So I typed those, regurgitated those into the email that I sent, and just wondered if you know, if there were any tweaks to this. Just for a history, it was over 10 years ago, before the management plan was finalized in 2017. The committee at that time thought about this and really spent time wordsmithing it, but that was over 10 years ago. So if there's anything anyone wants to recommend adding to the mission and the vision statement, please, you know, feel free to chime in.
I think it's in pretty good shape, personally.
Succinct.
Yeah, I have no additions.
Yeah, and it's just a minor one, and I don't know if it's worth monitoring or just modifying it based on that. In the vision statement, we talk about you know, natural area with ecological importance, historical significance, and outdoor recreation opportunities. And I threw in there maybe educational opportunities too, because that's something that we try to embrace. And hopefully when we get somebody that's, you know, wants to take on the role of connecting with the community, you know, with whether it's a bird watch or invasive walk, or just, you know, ephemeral spring flowers or whatnot. But it's just a minor addition, and I don't know if it's really worth revisiting at this time.
Susan?
The way it strikes me when I read that, it's talking about the qualities of the land, that it's a natural area, that it has these importance, and outdoor recreational opportunities. I think that educational opportunities are not, I think they're part of what could come from the committee more than what comes from the land.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that. So maybe I should put out a motion to kind of accept our current mission and vision statement and present that to the council and ask, you know, what the next step is on going in front of the council, and kind of like the timing of it, you know, with the discussion as to really should, you know, I think we should probably just move forward with it, even though we're in the process of discussing the pros and cons of being a committee versus just being a task force. So I guess.
Chris, as a chair, you're not really supposed to be able to make motions.
Oh, good.
So if somebody else could, sorry.
I'm fine with that.
I was just in some very intense meetings with, you know, all this open meeting and all this stuff. And so does somebody want to make that motion? And maybe I would also decouple the task force from the committee from the vision statement. I would not package those in the same motion, because I think the one is still very hypothetical, which I don't think your intention was to connect the two necessarily. Yeah. So I guess the motion, to paraphrase you, if I might make a motion to pass the vision statement as written and present that to the city council.
Are you making
the discussion part?
If we're not changing anything, do we have to make a motion for it?
I think it was, do we present it to city council as is the question,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh. I'd like to make a comment, but I want to be in the right order of when discussion happens.
Yeah, so let's have a motion, let's have a second.
I second.
Okay, discussion, Susan.
I think also it's worth, I think probably our vision and mission are enough information for them, but also I think it's worth bringing to their attention that we do have this significant work plan that we work from, or this management plan that we do work from, and that guides what we're doing.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay,
So I don't know what the process is. It was just a request from Nicholas that all committees go before council with a vision, not a vision, but a kind of a,
A statement of their goals.
yeah, I forget
think-
how it wasn't exactly worded like that. So you know, just maybe we can vote on it. And I guess I'm not, as being the chair, I'm only I've been not doing this correctly. I'm only the tiebreaker, so I don't even vote. Is that right, Jeanette?
I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, I think that that's accurate, but I haven't.
Okay,
So the motion is to present it as it's currently written.
Yes.
yeah.
All the vote.
Well, we had the suggestion from Susan. I think, Susan, I think the suggestion to also bring that is, there's no problem with that. I think we should bring everything we have to this meeting and just say, we're a really well-organized committee.
Mhm.
This is what we have. We already have a vision and mission and this amazing plan.
Yeah,
So, okay. All right,
yeah, that's what I would move, that we bring forth.
okay.
Not that we have to show them the plan necessarily, but
Show us off. Okay, so I think we can vote on presenting what we already have at the city council meeting.
Which is to be determined timing wise. That'll be up to Nicholas and the council probably when they want to have people come.
Yep. Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
All right. Any against? Nope. Okay.
There's no tie breaking with 5
No
people.
tie breaking. That's right. Oh my gosh. Robert's rules. All right. Snow bee agreement. Was that was at city council, or still needs to go to city council?
Oh, you're looking for the permission form? Is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm. Or the,
Okay.
yeah, Chris, I think has some background on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the annual going before the council, we've always had like the Snow Bees committee representative schedule that and bring that forward to the council. I don't know if that's already on your radar screen. I know you haven't done it in the past, Greg, but Mark has, and prior to him, Mike Perigo did that.
Yeah, I did it in between those two, but yeah, it's just our standard permission form that we do annually every year. So I'll get that. I'll make a note, fill that out, and get it to Nicholas. And I don't have to go to the board. He's never, I'm sorry, council. He just signs it and lets us know.
Okay,
I'll take care of that.
Thank you. I
thank
should
you.
point out that there has been the attachment that that I think you're aware of, Greg, that we've discussed before, that has conditions. It's like attach any conditions or additional information to it. So there is an attachment that goes along with that you should have a copy of in your records. But it's basically just the signage and, I forget what else. I haven't pulled it up to look at it. But most recently, I think after we met a few years ago, Tim and I went to what do you call it? The the beehive.
That's right. The beehives, yeah.
But there was, we requested and discussed sensitive zone signs in the pasture, and the opening and closing and securing of the gate. And those are the two things that come to mind. But there is
So
that.
you want that submitted with it as well? Like,
Yeah,
Annually?
and that
Okay.
has been submitted with it let me know if you can't find
No,
it.
I know what the document is. We have it on file. I'll
Okay,
submit that with it.
great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. Recreation Trail Grants 2025.
Oh, that's me again. Sorry, I was taking notes. Yeah, I received an email from Nicholas asking if the committee would be interested in applying for a recreation trails grant. Just for a little bit of history, the committee's already received one of those before from the state. I think it repaired, the Killer Hill, that steep road, and then the main trail, mostly like the Vast Trail. I think it was that grant. There's been a few grants, so I think that's what it was. And instead of applying for that a few years ago, we were going to apply and then for the trail work that we're doing now, but we learned of the URSA grant. So the cow pasture has benefited from these before. Apparently the city has hired someone to write grants on behalf of the city. And so there is actually a person now that would fulfill this. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on it. My personal feeling on it, I mentioned to Nicholas that, at the end of this trail assessment, we're going to have a punch list of all these additional trail projects and work that should be done, completed. I'm just not sure if we're ready for that now because we haven't even completed the URSA grant is my feeling on it. And I don't know, I think the subcommittee here is kind of a little exhausted from grant expectations and work and the time commitment of that. So that's my personal opinion, but I told Nicholas I would reach out to the committee for their thoughts.
Hey, Chris,
Would that, I'm sorry.
go
Would
ahead.
that,
Go ahead.
Thank you. We talked about a bridge over the brook. Guess bigger than a stream, it's a brook sometimes. Somewheres in the future for people to easily negotiate that, especially in the winter. Would that fit under that category of any sort?
It would, but under and it could have been one of the grants that we received. It could have been the recreational trails grant. There was a group of state staff that came to assess what we were asking for. And at that time, we were asking for a bridge over that stream crossing on, the wide trail that Vast uses. And the opinion of theirs is that because of the topography there and the wetland area, they thought that it was not feasible. They thought that the bridge would be so long, it would just be cost prohibitive. So we already approached state officials about the ability to put a bridge there, and they really felt like it was to get a permit to put a bridge there, it would be such a huge bridge and it would be cost prohibitive. So we've been there, tried that before, but and that's kind of why we ended up with a pedestrian bridge with the URSA grant on a place that was a small pinch point in a pedestrian path.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the point of the new bridge that we built for the pedestrians was to try to get people off of the Vast Trail in the winter in hopes that they would use that trail instead, so that there wouldn't be the multiple users on the Vast Trail other than snowmobiles. We'll see how that plays out, but
yeah, people will have an option,
Mhm.
because we've had complaints about snowmobiles on the trail, and that was one of the just to update you, Greg, that was kind of one of our selling points for applying for the grant. We stated that we wanted to kind of avoid any kind of as much as possible pedestrian, snowmobile conflicts and give people an option to not have to walk on that path as much as possible. So that's justified the new looping trail with the pedestrian.
Okay.
I posted, I'm assuming this is the correct, the RTP 2025 RTP program. And the application deadlines, I posted those in the chat. So the pre-application is open and materials are released on October 14th. The submission deadline is December 6th with a full application submission deadline January 31st.
Yeah.
So as a member of the grant subcommittee, I don't think I can handle that right now.
Yeah, I was gonna add, I agree with you, Jeanette. I was gonna say that if we had a project or a trail that we're like, we need to work on this and get this done, it would make sense to put something in, but I agree with what Chris was saying, that as this plan comes together and we actually have a checklist of what's next, I think next year would be a good time to, as this current grant wraps up, maybe start looking for money to start to continue the progress of what we've been doing the past year and a half.
I also want to put out there, we don't know what the state will have for federal funding in general in the new administration, and I think we run the risk of putting a lot of time in this now while the state still has funds, and there may not be funds going forward. So, I mean, I don't want to throttle our progress or slow it down, but I think there's so much work that goes into these that I would probably just take a wait and see approach first to see what funds are available going forward as well. So I think looking at it for next October, if it comes out, might be a better plan. But let's remember, let's put it on our radar.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing, they're seeking that out when we got the URSA grant, and it was kind of, there was something with the state that they were wondering if they were going to do it that year. But then they said, but there's this no match URSA grant. So that's why we shifted gears. So it was inquiring about the Trails grant a few years ago. All right, I didn't want to, dismiss it without the committees being aware of it. In the meantime, I think I will try to meet, I forgot her name. I think Nicholas said her name was Crystal, but I'm not sure about that. But there is a new person down there. And I also just wonder if she'll be taking over some of Janet Shatney's role in the current grant, if that'll get shifted to her. So it would be good to find out who she is and meet up with her and introduce the committee. So I won't be out and walking about for a while, but maybe I'll reach out with a phone conversation if everyone thinks that that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think Jim might have an update when we get to the next item with regard to Janet and the office down there. Okay, so I don't think we need to do any motions or anything for this because it's a wait and see approach and we're not doing anything. So I think we can move on to the URSA grant updates and decisions.
Yeah, so I guess I can start with responding to what Chris was saying. I've been back and forth with Janet, and I have not, she hasn't mentioned another person. She's provided me all the information that I've asked for. So as far as a new person, I haven't been put in touch with them. There was a question about reporting to the state for the current grant. And Janet said that she has taken care of all of the reporting and reimbursement requirements, and we don't need to worry about that at all. She also said if she needs something from someone, she'll reach out to Chris and can also copy me on that if necessary. So
awesome.
She's taking care of all the reporting and has not asked us to do anything regarding that. There was a question, Chris had asked me to look into how much had been billed to the URSA grant to date, and I sent that to the subcommittee folks at like 4:30 today, so you probably haven't even seen it. But where'd it go? We had a little bit over $50,000 awarded to us, and Janet sent me a spreadsheet that kind of covered everything, including the appraisal, the sale of the property, Zach's trail work, the bridge building, and some tools purchased at Nelson Hardware. And so far we have spent 39,000 and 10,717 remains. And I think that lines up fairly well. There was another $500 that Zach just put in this morning. I think that was today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Zach billed us another $500 for some of the reroutes and the work that he did recently, which I'm looking forward to getting up there and checking out. It looked like he did a pretty good job just based on his photos.
Yeah, I've been up there. It's pretty nice.
Is it great?
Oh, so that's a question. Janet doesn't pay a bill, an invoice, unless we have approval. So Mark, if you see, and I'm not going to be walking up there, but from what you saw, it's go ahead and approve.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. The entrance, I mean, it looks really nice. It flows very well from the parking lot. You can see the entrance to the new really guides people very well into that new location. So yeah, I was really happy with that. And I ran into Zach. Also, he was working on one of the side trails, and I don't remember the number. But he was also working on the access to that we had discussed with him when you and I walked with him. And that work was looking really good as well.
Jim, I do have a question on, I thought that oops, I just lost it. It seemed like there was a math error on the spreadsheet that you could look at. The first one, like on the 4/17/2024, it said that there was a city attorney work, and then it was 20K for the land purchase and 500 for the closing costs. And unless I'm looking at this incorrectly, you go over to the amount requested is $20,288.08.
Yep, it should be 20,500, or her description is just a rounding, which doesn't really work very well in this regard.
Yeah, it's off by.
I can check with her about that.
Okay. And then the other thing we should talk to her is that she's under the impression that we bought the tools for Zach. So you should clarify that's, we weren't purchasing tools, that they were for the committee to do trail work. So that
Yeah,
she has a clear understanding of that.
Yep, I think I mentioned that to her at one point before, but she must have missed that, which is fine. I'll let her know. I have all those tools here in my garage at this point. I'll let her know that.
Yeah.
This is Stitzel page. Okay.
Chris? Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, I'm officially on the committee now. Am I included in the email threads? Because I'm not getting any of this correspondence whatsoever, as far as I know.
There is subcommittee email that Chris just referred to, which just goes to Jim, Chris, and me. Because if we send it to everybody, then we have to warn it, then it's an official meeting. But you should have gotten stuff about open meeting law this week that went out.
I did get that.
Yeah, so you are.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's it's like one of the cons of being an official committee is that we can't, we had to keep this grant moving along. We formed a subcommittee so that we could meet without warning and like recording, just so that we could keep things going forward. But with that said, we can't be sending general information out to people or having a kind of a conversation back and forth. It's more of that. So I think you should have been receiving everything that has gone out to the general distribution list.
Okay, so with that, I understand Robert's rules and how all that works, and no problem. Regarding the URSA grant, you guys talk about it frequently, and that was when before I was involved, so I don't really know. I mean, I try to keep up in their meetings, and I don't have a copy of the new proposed map. I missed the October 4th meeting, so I had another commitment. Is there any way I can get an update or do you have a sheet or something that talks about that I can kind of look at and catch up on? And especially a copy of the proposed map. I think you said Zach is the one that's doing that.
Yeah, that was part of his, it's what the subcommittee is reviewing now, and we really haven't shared. I guess I brought it to the last meeting, but it was based on the map that is currently in the management plan. So basically, he took the management plan map that you can find in the plan that's posted on our website. And so those are the, that's the map that we have now. And at the last meeting, we just discussed what Zach was proposing for routes.
So the proposed map is on the website.
The existing current map is the proposed map where Zach has drawn in the new trail and where he recommended a couple of other trails is not. That's in the trails assessment, which hasn't been finalized yet. We're working with him on that. And coming up now in this discussion is going to be that talk about the trails. So I don't know if you're not familiar with them, if you could go and pull up on your computer, the management plan, and go to the appendices, you'll be able to see the maps that we're talking about. But no, it has the trail assessment hasn't been distributed to the full committee yet.
Yeah, because it's still in very rough form, and I think Zach is still working on it. So we didn't, if we brought it to the committee, it would basically go as a public record. So it's in very much draft form, and there isn't even really a new map yet.
And there, I'm sorry, we're yeah, part of what I'm going to talk about is an issue that we're having in getting one of the trails added, an existing trail to the map. So we'll discuss that too. But we have some things that we need to clear up prior to having the assessment completed up or finalized, I think.
And so the process will be that the subcommittee will send our revisions that we reviewed. A lot of them was just corrections, but a lot of some recommendations and just our input on what we would like to see as named trails. So I sent that off to Zach. Probably it's been a couple weeks now, 3 weeks ago. And he hasn't gotten back to me on it. So I think he's been mostly out in the field and hopefully we'll refocus back on that trail assessment.
So there's no way to send out a proposed map to the rest of the committee.
It's just not ready yet, Gary. It's so right now, I don't think the committee would get the full committee would get anything out of looking at what is in progress, just because it is all over the place pretty much, because we haven't even, the thing that Mark is going to talk about access. And then Zach's draft was in such need of editing and clarification that we're very much in the clarification stages still of what he is talking about with the trails. But before it gets signed off on, the full committee will have a chance to review and comment on it. So it's not like the subcommittee decides on, this is it, this is written in stone. But we just really, the document is not in any kind of shape to bring it to the committee and make good use of committee time, just because it's so rough. Even just editorially, it took a lot of work from the subcommittee's side to just get it into a format that was a little bit more readable and really sort of accessible to follow. So, and if you want to know about the URSA grant to start with, I think, Jim, you have the copy of what we submitted, right? Could you send that to Gary, the application, where it kind of maps out all the work? That would be helpful. So rest assured that when we hash out all the rough things in this proposal, that the full committee will have a chance to comment, look at all of the components and then vote on it. So yeah, that's kind of how the process works, but it's.
Well, Jim, if you,
it's-
and it's Greg, by the way.
Greg,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No
Greg.
problem. No
It
problem.
says GAR at the beginning of your name, so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Greg, sorry, no
Greg
problem.
A. Rouleau.
Correct. Um, Jim, if you could send me that, that'd be interesting, at least something I can have to get a start on the feel for this thing.
Yep. I just
Okay,
have to find it somewhere in my Google Drive here.
when you get a minute.
Yep.
And any of the, like the budget we just talked about, folks can certainly get copies of that, and Chris as the chair can communicate out to everybody and share things, but we can't then have a discussion with the full membership. If you have a question or a comment or feedback on something that Chris as the chair sent out, you can just respond to her alone, and then she can, clarify things. Like we had a question about open meeting law today that kind of went back and forth a little bit. And so I clarified it with Chris, and then she sent out a clarification to everybody. So that's how it works, as far as going back and forth. But if anybody wants access to this spreadsheet that we just referenced, by all means, that's no problem. Does
Thank you.
that help, Greg?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Great.
Can I just clarify what, Jeanette, what did you suggest I share? Was it the completed application form?
Yeah, the one we submitted, the final.
The final application form?
Yeah,
I
because
can
we had
do
so
that.
many iterations of that too, so.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so as far as Earth, Jim, I think that was your updates, but what I want to follow up on is I think we're looking pretty good as far as the bottom line. The updates that I have is that the city, I don't know how many have been able to see it, they installed a new gate. And Jim, I didn't see any deductions from the.
Yeah, I do have some more updates still. I'm not done yet.
Okay, go ahead.
I had asked I always do that. Janet about the gate. And
Oh,
she
thanks.
said,
Not just me.
no, it's an easy one to do. Janet said that she's been trying to get some communication from the foreman to Brian Baker, the public works director. Brian thinks that they fabricated the gate at the shop, so they did not buy one, but she said she still needs to confirm that with Brian Baker. So it sounds like they made the gate themselves, and I'm suspecting that there won't be the $800 that was allotted for it will be spent on it, but that's still to be determined. And then I also asked Janet about the hazard trees, which I believe we had $5,000 slotted for that removal. And I think there was some confusion about which trees were supposedly hazardous. And Brian was like, is that the ones by the old sludge pit? And I don't think that that's where they are. I said, I believe it's the ones along the trail that has the new gate at the bottom of it. I don't know if anyone's been out to see if they've done that work. Yes, no.
Yeah, they have opened the road, and I sent them the Ursa grant appendices because Donnell was asking, what standard do we build it to? Do we bring in gravel? And basically I said, well, it's a service road to bring in a brush hog and, emergency ATV, it's not necessarily a road.
Yeah.
So I gave him the appendices and I said, he said he'd be able to decide, determine, what standard it needed to be built to. So I think they're done with it.
With the tree removal or the actual trail for the
It's like the old road bed. They brought the old road bed back to what it was. And
Okay.
Mark probably can have some input on this. And there
Okay.
was a big, I think when we applied for the grant, it's been such a long time ago, there was a huge tree that was dead. And I think that one was in the road. It was on the road bed. So they removed that. And when I walked the trail with Donnell, he was pointing out to me, he said, we're not going to go out in the woods. What I'm I'm taking trees that are leaning, you know, they weren't really on the
Over the
roadbed,
road.
but they were leaning over. And he
Mhm.
said, we'll take out that one, you know, just not very many. But he said, those are the ones that I'm worrying about that would fall on the roadbed. And his opinion is that, you know, the hazard tree removal for the roadbed, that he felt like he removed those trees, but he wasn't going to have his guys go out in the woods to cut trees that might fall, that we would just deal with those as they come up. So my interpretation from that is that $5,000 that was allotted to hazard tree removal, we can move that to we were given the permission as long as the hazard trees were removed according to the grant administrator. I forgot the new woman's name, but it's no longer Becca. But she said, as long as you get the work done, you can reallocate money. So that $5,000, I'm quite confident, can be moved over to the purchase of the land. That was $25,000 versus $20,000. You know, as we started the process, it was
Yeah.
for sale for 20. So I
Yeah.
think that nicely, you know, was able to slide that over.
Yeah, and Janet's last email to me said that she was trying to get a summary about the tree removal from Brian to keep up with the match amount for the grant. So she was planning to use that as the city's match to it versus actually paying to have the tree removal performed by a contractor.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't know whether or not in the conversations, I knew that there was no gate available, like Bill Ahern had said. And I knew that Donnell said that they were going to fabricate it, but what I didn't know is whether or not they were going to buy the raw materials for that gate, and if they needed cement or anything to shore up the posts. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of that $800 would be
Yep.
applied to the grant. But with that said, I think that, and I don't know if I'm jumping here or not, but I wanted to, with this group, this committee meeting, give Jim the okay to go forward with the purchase of the additional tools. As if you may recall, he didn't purchase everything because we, right out of the gate, like the first thing that was needed for the grant was the purchase of the property, and it went up $5,000 from when we applied for the grant like 5 years ago. So we were lenient on what we were purchasing, but there's a lot of other tools that are on the wish list for trail maintenance that I think and there was I think they were back ordered last year too. They were hard to come by. So I think it would be prudent to give Jim the okay to move forward on the purchase of those tools to up to the amount of whatever was in the budget for them. Was
Yeah, I think the
800?
budget was 800, but I would subtract, I think, about 150 that I spent on the hand loppers and the other tools. So I
Yep.
try to keep it right around that total of 800 for all the tools. And I had reached out to the company that makes the really great trail tools, and they said they're hard to get, but if we were going to order a few different tools, they would just make them for us. So
I can't make a motion, but if somebody could make a motion to give Jim the go ahead for those additional
make that.
tool
I
purchase.
can make that motion for Jim to go ahead and get the required tools up to, you want a number 650, 650? Is that what you're looking for? Or 800?
sure.
Was it 800, Jim?
Well, it was 800 total,
Oh, okay.
not to exceed 800 for all tools.
Okay, so my motion will say not to exceed $800 total tools.
Second. Okay, any additional discussion about that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Jim, can you tell me where the new gate is? What is the location of that?
By the cemetery.
Right off Fort.
Oh, okay.
Hope
Yeah, I saw
Cemetery.
that. Yep, I saw that. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
you-
noticeable down there now when you drive by. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's finally opened back up where it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should also point out Donnell is has been in communication. I don't know if it's with the chief of police or somebody in, I think it is, to have a kind of a lockbox on that gate so that it's accessible for all city
Good.
staff. So I don't know if that would come out of the budget or not, but he was going to work on that.
So
Great.
are we still in Ursa grant updates?
I still had a question about it.
Okay.
Did they, I'm hoping they didn't, but did they put down gravel on the road?
No,
They didn't.
Okay, good. Did they do any drainage work as far as water bars or anything like that? I assume not, but
no, I don't remember seeing any water bars.
okay. Noted.
So Mark, did you have anything more to say about, I only walked down maybe like 2/3 of it. I think as far as we walked down it together with Zach that day. But did you have any comments? Did you feel like what we saw, or if you've walked the whole thing, that it's in reasonable shape to be a brush hog access, ATV access emergency?
Yeah, most definitely. It's in good shape. Yeah, I walked the whole thing, and yeah, it's in good shape. And I did not notice any hazard trees. I mean, I did notice where trees had been cut along the side of it. I didn't notice anything overhanging. So I think that they've completed that task as well. But yeah, in my mind, it's exactly what it should be. You know, it's not overbuilt. It's not. It was a little. I was surprised at how nice it looked, but that was just because of what it had looked like in the past, where it was. So, but yeah, I think they did a good job, but it's completed.
Were you able to ride your bike on it?
Well, of course.
I figured. Great.
Questions?
Thanks, Mark.
Any other updates or questions about this Ursa grant updates and decisions item on the agenda?
Some of what I wanted to get to, which was going to be a big part, and what are we doing on time? It's already 6:23.
Yep.
I don't know if we can get to it this meeting, but I wanted to finalize what we started to discuss on trail routes. And what we had put in the, so I don't know, does that have to be postponed to January?
I think given the condition of the outstanding situation with the trail access and all of that, I think we should probably postpone it to January, and maybe I would suggest that we spend a pretty good chunk of time at that meeting to discuss all the routes and everything, because that will also go hand in hand with the map and everything else. So maybe that will be sort of the main topic, and we can get through the other items pretty quickly and then dedicate most of the time to that. That would probably be best. Because we really don't, there's so much that we don't know yet, because it's so up in the air, that I think it wouldn't be a good use of the time of the committee, if that works. So,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, basically, I just, I kind of went through and redid the map, and maybe I could give everyone a copy of the, for the next meeting of the existing map. So, before the meeting, so they could have that in front of them with what we've discussed with highlighted, we talked about a big loop. And so I will make it a point before the next meeting to give, I don't know if that's jumping the gun with the subcommittee or not, but I don't know how we can talk about, like, what we want to discuss and present to Zach as, kind of the big loop we discussed, the big roundabout loop. But I think that would be an appropriate time personally.
Yeah, and perhaps we could try to do that one in person, so that we can be in the room and pour over maps together as much as possible. I know we're supposed to do hybrid, but if we can maybe meet in person and just look at paper copies, that might be beneficial. So that could be something we could remind folks about for the next meeting. So,
Oh, okay. With that said, just I forgot to bring up the point that the new requirements for the open meeting laws, that we have to have an in-person place. I'll follow up and try. Does anyone have a preference as to where that place could be? We used to meet at city council chambers, but that room is locked, somebody has to open it. So,
Chris, can we hold that for the end? Because I want to move us along in the agenda as posted,
absolutely.
and then we can maybe regroup before we adjourn.
Yep.
I do have a technical issue. Is anybody trying to log in using the Zoom password right now from a Safari, from a Mac OS device in this room?
No.
Okay,
Wait.
There was somebody
yeah.
named Carrie Roulard contacted me on the 14th, 11/14, that she wanted to, but that's not the same name, that she was going to try to join this meeting, but had a conflict.
Okay, yeah, it's not the somebody's waiting in the lobby message. It's somebody's trying to be the admin on this account, and I'm worried that we might get booted. So if we get booted, we'll try to get back in again. Okay. Sorry for that. It keeps popping up and
Greg just got booted or left.
oh, yep. Okay. All right. Anything else for Ursa right now? No. Okay. So I don't think we need to vote. We had one vote on that. We're just moving on to the next point. I think it would be important for Greg to be back for the conservation access piece update. Susan, would you mind going first with your invasive plant control update?
Sure. So everyone who made a pledge has completed their pledge. Mine being completed about 3 o'clock today. So yay. The only thing really that's outstanding is if we're gonna burn that big pile of buckthorn, that I or somebody should cover it before it starts snowing often. So I guess I'm looking for a tarp. Maybe my husband will lend me one. Does anyone have one?
We have a large, it's just a tarp. I think it would cover most of it. It's, a little tattered, but I'd be happy to lend it for that purpose.
Okay, yeah. All right. So I'll just get in touch with you about taking that up there and just keeping it mostly dry so that it will burn sometime when there's snow on the ground. And maybe in January, we'll see how the season is going and pick a day to have a burning party.
Good. Susan, if you need help and I can make it work on like some weekend when it's not dark out, I'm happy to come with you,
All right.
help you pull that tarp over. It's a pretty big pile. It's tall.
It's getting
so-
shorter.
Oh, is it good? So it's
It's
compact.
kind of compressing. It's interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be in touch and we can hike up there and pull it over and just secure it somehow. So
Okay. And I think that's it for that sort of activity until sometime around Green Up Day. I was thinking today how we've had input that more people in the community were interested in participating if a day, an invasive day, was not the same as Green Up Day. So also a date we can look at later, but that would be the next thing to do.
yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
And
when I
just
did
wanna- Go ahead, Susan, sorry.
When I went up there to get rid of, I had to bring a shovel to get rid of my last piece. I couldn't get it out all the way. That's when I saw the new trail access, and it is really nice. Yeah. That is my report.
Thank
And
you.
just because we haven't been asked for an annual report by the city last year. I don't know what's happened with that, but I always use the minutes to kind of go back, trip down memory lane to kind of summarize what the committee has done. So I want to make sure, like we had, just to get a number, our volunteer effort, like community effort. I think we had 5 members and 2 volunteers that.
Well,
Did
there
I
was
get
that
that right?
family that showed up.
No, for the last one, for the buckthorn.
Oh, yeah. 2 volunteers,
Danielle and Mike.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
near committee members, we'll call them.
so, and then I said, so there were 7 people, and I think we worked at least 3 hours. Is that